Your kid is never ugly, right? You're always just talking about your product. You're saying your product's the best. We solve these challenges. And it's coming from your company. Year after year, digital ad spend was increasing. Folks are spending more and more on digital advertising, and unfortunately, seeing less results. And at the same time, sales teams are really struggling. Only 29% of salespeople are actually hitting quota. Efforts are increasing. We're spending more. Sales teams are sending more, maybe messages or doing more outbound with less results. And so this is a very, very pivotal time for not only you, your company, your brand to get on LinkedIn. So yeah, this is a photo of me if you couldn't tell. I don't know what grade this is, maybe 5th grade. And as you can tell, I had a very similar haircut to Pauly D, the blowout. And I mean, looking back at this, looks ridiculous, honestly. And my mom, I remember she bought so many copies of these and she was like sending them to everybody. She was like showing her coworkers and she just thought this was like the greatest picture ever. As moms do, right? As moms do. And it kind of reminded me of B2B marketing, how your kid is never ugly, right? You're always just talking about your product. You're saying your product's the best. We solve these challenges. And it's coming from your company. So it's not as credible, right? It's kind of like screaming into a megaphone. And so when we think about how the consumer brands operate, as they partner with folks like, if anyone listens to Andrew Huberman in the room, a few people, he's one of the most popular podcasts out right now. He talks a lot about health and supplements and science. Any brand that he works with, these brands are ultra successful, from Athletic Greens, Momentous Protein. And it's because he's credible and he has influence. And it's also a third party, right? It's not AG1 saying we're the best. It's a neuroscientist saying this product is the best. It's a lot more credible. And so that's what we'll be covering today: how to reach your target audience through B2B influencer marketing. B2B influencer marketing. For some people, that's a new term. In the consumer space, if you scroll on social media, you might see a lot of influencers pushing physical products, CPG products. In B2B, it's a lot different. We're promoting software, maybe services. So today we're going to talk about some of the challenges that are currently happening in the B2B go-to-market. The rise of this new era of B2B influencers is happening right before our eyes. We're going to talk about why the timing is right to invest into this, both time and money into that. And we're also going to get really tactical. We're going to talk about 4 content pillars that you all can take back with you, share with your team, on how to develop content with influencers in-house. And then we're going to talk through some brands that are doing it really, really well. Share some examples with you guys. You also might be thinking, who the hell is this guy? So I'll give you a quick little intro. My name is Vin. I just to maybe relate a little bit, spent the last 6 years at a company called Demandbase. I'm very active in this community, and especially at B2BMX. I was on the sales side of the house, selling to enterprise companies. So I was talking to CMOs daily, marketers. I also, at the same time, was developing my own content. So I started creating a lot of content about my job, about ABM, about sales, about marketing. And it started to grow a small engaged following within a very, very, very particular niche. And that niche was B2B sales, right? Not the most sexiest things to talk about. And so from there, I was able to actually work with over 50 different B2B brands as a creator. And those brands actually started to work in a higher capacity, where we started to build out some influencer programs for them. And now, about 4 months ago, I started my own company called Creatorbuzz, where we do just that. We manage and build influencer marketing campaigns for B2B SaaS organizations. And so when I was at Demandbase, one of the things I was noticing, speaking with so many marketers, was that year after year, digital ad spend was increasing. Folks are spending more and more on digital advertising, and unfortunately, seeing less results. And at the same time, sales teams are really struggling. Only 29% of salespeople are actually hitting quota. The average reply rate for across sales organizations is sitting at around 1 to 2%. So efforts are increasing. We're spending more. Sales teams are sending more, maybe messages, or doing more outbound with less results. And folks are really moving into more communities, influencers, to actually obtain information when going into a buying cycle. And that's kind of where, really good timing, the rise of B2B influencer marketing is really taking place. And they said 93% of B2B marketers are actually planning on investing into this going forward in 2025. Now, that all being said, there's a lot of other variables that are actually to be responsible for this rise with B2B influencer marketing. In the past, you might think of working with thought leaders to, I don't know, maybe feature them on an ebook, get them to speak at your event. And it was really only a few of those top individuals, maybe someone like a Jay Bear, uh, someone that's like, has very, very large reach, but maybe not in your niche that you exactly care about. LinkedIn is really one of the causes and one of the things that's enabling B2B influencer marketing because it's creating a lot more voices in particular niches that were previously underserved. But LinkedIn actually released a new video feature that they're starting to test out. Some of you may have it already on your phone, on your mobile devices. Some of you may not. Okay, so this released back in March, and they're testing it on a lot of these mobile devices. They're constantly adding more and more individuals to this. It's basically a TikTok style feed. So it's using short form video and having a separate feed where you can reach more individuals that are outside of your current follower count. And with this feature being so new, LinkedIn is actually a content deficient platform, meaning there's more users on the platform that consume than actually people posting on the platform. So the problem with the LinkedIn timeline is that there's not enough content to be pushed out for the people that are on the platform consuming. And right now, Gen Z makes up about 29% of the users on LinkedIn. And so right now, there's about 1.5 million pieces of content being uploaded to the app every minute, which is a major increase from previous years. More and more folks are uploading video, especially. It's their fastest growing feature, growing 34% year after year. And so this is a very, very pivotal time for not only you, your company, your brand to get on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is actually supporting this, right? LinkedIn is supporting this idea of B2B influencers. The first thing they released was this creator feature, which just basically allows you to get deeper analytics on your profile and also allows you different features like LinkedIn newsletters. If you are a LinkedIn creator, you probably have video access to the video platform. And then also recently, I would maybe close to maybe a year ago, maybe 8 months ago, they released this thought leader ads feature. Thought leader ads are extremely underrated. This is one of my favorite things I think that LinkedIn has produced in a long time. It's essentially, you can boost a third-party post. So if you have Liam here as the example that I used there, if you have Liam here maybe making a post about your brand and he's talking about how he uses your brand and he really, really likes it, that is a sponsored post because you're maybe paying him to make that post. Or maybe it's just organic. Maybe he truly just likes the post and he just made the post. If that post does really well, you might want to put some ad dollars behind it and boost it, get some additional eyeballs. And so the reason that works really well is because you can boost it, it's going to more people, but it looks like an organic post in feed. It's not coming from a company page. And so these work really, really well. And we can talk through some strategies of how to best use these thought leader ads as well as we move along here. A lot of my friends who were content creators, they were getting really cool brand partnerships with like clothing companies, supplement companies. I'm getting B2B SaaS. So I was like, oh, this is an interesting niche. I got an inbound one time while I still had my 9 to 5 from a company called Tuesday. They're basically just an AI tool. They cold emailed me using their tool. And I was like, this is the best email I've ever seen. Can we work out some posts? I want to highlight you guys. And so we came up with this idea. This was the first kind of test, I guess you could say, where we wanted to create some content around this. And their issue was they were newer to market. They had a major awareness issue. They're playing against some like really, really big competitors like Clay, who has really great brand awareness. And at the time they had 2 LinkedIn followers. So like, you could say pretty much nobody knew about this company. And that there's this proof there. And so the content strategy we did was in 3 parts. The first thing was saying, this is the best cold email that I've ever seen. And I just highlighted the email and shared it that was for Tuesday. And then we did a follow-up where I did a more breakdown video of how this tool actually works and me testing it out for the very first time. So raw reactions and me testing the tool out. And then we did a third video that was long form, longer than let's say 2-3 minutes. And I actually did a more deep dive demo of the tool. It's like a demo thing. And they actually did some thought leader ads behind this video, the third one that you see here. And we had a link in that post to drive signups. And there's a basically free trial to try the tool. After that, we drove over 200 signups within this week of posting. There was 3 posts that went out. Also, they ran some thought leader ads on the back end to get some additional love. And their LinkedIn followers went from 2 followers to, I think it was like a little over 1,000 in that 1 to 2 week period. And so now we'll move into how you can take some of these ideas and kind of bring them back to your companies. And I did a lot of research working with a lot of different brands and also doing a lot of research. I put together 4 different content pillars that you can use for B2B brands. And so the first one would be the brand story. Now, a content pillar is just basically a theme or format that you want to follow when creating content. It's basically your narrative. The first one should be your brand story. Why was your company created? What problems do they solve? Really on more of a personal level. The next one is building in public, which is a very popular trend, I would say now, which is basically sharing a little bit more behind the scenes of anything from building a company, building out a strategy, salesperson hitting quota, anything that's you're working on that you want to show behind the scenes, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the above. The third one would be a customer story. So how are customers actually using the tool? And there's some really unique ways you can do that. I think, when you think of customer story, maybe you get on Zoom call or you get a video crew to someone's place and film the customer just talking really well about you. That's a good approach. I think there's some creative ways we can actually use customers in our content story and our brand story that I'm going to share in just a bit. And then the last one would be this idea of stopping the scroll. There's tons of content now getting pushed on LinkedIn, right? We talked about it earlier before. And so how can we get folks to actually stop scrolling to consume your content? So the first one is, unfortunately, everybody wants to hear from your brand. Take Microsoft, for example. Obviously, everybody knows Microsoft. They have 24 million followers. And of course, they own LinkedIn. So maybe there's some like Tom from MySpace thing where like everyone's friends with Tom. Maybe everybody follows Microsoft by default. I don't know. But they have 24 million followers on LinkedIn, which is insane. Much more followers than the founder and everyone associated with it. Except if you look at their previous post, and you guys can check this out yourselves. Their posts, this is probably the worst engagement rate I have ever seen. They have 24 million followers and they get about 30 to 60 likes per post. It's really, really bad. People are not caring what the Microsoft company page has to say. However, if you compare it to their CEO, Satya, look at his most recent post. 2 days ago, he shared a link too. This is like not even an engaging post. He was just talking about some investments they were making into AI and infrastructure in looks like Brazil. And this has over 47,000 likes, and there's people having conversations in the comments. People want to hear from the people from the organizations. They want to hear of people that use these softwares. They want to hear of people that partner with these softwares. We're gonna talk a little more about that. Now, one strategy that I like a lot, love them or hate them, but ZoomInfo has really, really doubled down on this founder-led content, this founder-led strategy. Their CEO, Henry, he has about 65,000 followers on LinkedIn. And they do some really, really interesting things where he is constantly, one, putting out content. But two, this is my favorite one that he did recently. So I wanted to highlight it. He's done a bunch of stuff, but this is one that he did recently where ZoomInfo historically has not had great data in EMEA, in other regions besides North America. I think ZoomInfo, everyone knows, has really great data for North America. They weren't so great abroad. And their competitors knew that. There's competitors that just service that area. And instead of just ignoring it or saying, hey, no, our data got so much better, we're in a better place now, he actually took reviews. This is not a video that plays, unfortunately, but he took reviews from these people. He put it on a billboard in their home city. So I think one was somewhere in London. And he took this guy's review, put it on a billboard in his city, his review. And then he said, we heard you, we fixed it. And he created this whole video, and it was like a message from Henry to the people that left these reviews. And I just thought this was like, just an incredible idea. They're owning it. They're like, yeah, our data was not great internationally. We understand. We're here. We have to say, we want to make it up to you. And, putting up a billboard in a random, in a random small town in England somewhere probably is not going to get you the most eyeballs. However, they used it for content. And they use this to get digital eyeballs. And this is not just shared by Henry, but it was shared by many of the ZoomInfo employees. It was shared by the company page. They got a lot of reach out of this. So there's another strategy by a company called B2B. They do some de-anonymization for web visitors. And their CEO, Adam Robinson, actually comes from the consumer space. He has consumer technology brands, and he has one that actually pivoted to B2B. So he took a lot of that knowledge from the consumer space over into B2B. And he basically builds in public. He shares, they're a private company. It just hit 3 million in revenue. So, they're relatively small starting out. And he shares everything. He shares the financials. He shares the mess ups. He shares the wins. He shares how they're hitting a wall and how they need to change strategies and how this one change actually shifted everything. And you can see in the first post, I don't know if you can see that from here, but he said that they had a really bad churn rate problem in the first post. And he was open to ideas on how to fix this churn rate problem. And in the second post, you can see on the right-hand side, he just announced that they hit 3 million in ARR. So he's like making financial reports. This is, maybe more in-depth example of building a public. And then last but not least, the last example here is a company called ClickUp. And ClickUp really, really does a great job of this kind of stop the scroll strategy. This, I would say, is one of the more impressive use cases here. Maybe this is not something that you would start with, but I think it's an interesting strategy nonetheless. And so instead of saying they're a project management tool, which is extremely crowded, by the way, right? There's Asana, there's Monday.com, there's plethora of project management and productivity softwares that exist today. And how can you really stand out in that market? Well, ClickUp uses a really great strategy online. They've actually developed internal creators, and they stage kind of like fake HR meetings. And that's their skit content. Instead of saying, hey, we're the best project management tool, you should check us out, they've kind of went with a different approach. And one of the more funnier ones was they actually staged a protest at Dreamforce because they just released a chat feature. And their chat is going to compete with Slack. Slack's owned by Salesforce, run at Dreamforce. They did a whole protest. They worked with some creators. That guy on the bottom might look familiar, to kind of help promote this. And you can see, I think my video talking about the news actually performed better than their original video. And so now you're getting a third party to talk about this, which again goes back to that first example that I showed. And my mom sharing the picture of me with spiky hair. You're getting it now from a third party, right? They're working with creators like Corporate Bro, who's very big on LinkedIn as well. And this is really working for them. They've grown 90% year after year in one of the most competitive markets. They're on track for 200 million, and you can see their graph is up and to the right in terms of revenue. Great question. So for those who couldn't hear, he had asked, how do you think about sourcing creators specifically in niche industries? And I think that's actually why B2B actually works so well, because LinkedIn has actually allowed the creation of these micro and niche creators. And like I said earlier, maybe they don't have a large of a reach, but they're in that niche that you care about. I would also just simply ask around. If you know just one person that's active on LinkedIn, they might not have the biggest following, and that's okay, because you really care about niches. You might know just one person within your niche that talks about the content you care about. If you sell to product marketers, maybe you have one product marketer that you know is active on LinkedIn. Ask them who else would be good for this program. Or if you guys are hitting a wall, that's where we help. We help source micro creators in particular niches. There's a lot of solutions out there as well that could potentially help with that, some SaaS tools. But in terms of niches, I would start there with your customers and within any communities as well. If you guys are part of like Rep Genius or any of those small niche communities. There's another question over here on the same table. Similar question. Got it. Cool. Awesome. So how do you get started? I put together a 7-month plan. This is just an outline of how I think you can get started. I think from months 1 to 2, you can start thinking about those content pillars. What kind of content do you want to create, and how do you want to talk about your brand? Obviously, that's way easier said than done. That probably deserves another presentation on that. But think about what kind of content do you want to do? Can we get folks to build in public from the team? The next thing I would do is start extremely small, by the way, like very, very small. I'm talking like under 5 influencers, under 5 creators, and sign them to a 3-month campaign to test that out. And if you're working with micro creators, it's actually very affordable, especially when you compare it to digital advertising. But if it does turn out well, let's say you sign 5 creators, 3 of them are an incredible fit. 2 of them, maybe weren't the best choice. Continue to work with the ones that are working really, really well. Extend those 3 creators to a longer term agreement that you have that always on campaign. You now have them as a partner. You can bring them on your webinars, your podcasts. You have events. You have a relationship with them. And then lastly, you can expand the influencer roster and just repeat, right? Test it out, 3-month campaign, sign the ones that perform well or that you work really well with. And then lastly, just take some big swings, like try some stuff out. I don't know if you guys see this. I'm trying stuff out here too. We printed out these little QR codes, and it says, Jeremy, I know you're quiet quitting. I have proof. Your boss. And it's a QR code. We're helping people just scan it, and we're making some content about it. I think I only printed out a few it's not the point to get the eyeballs here. We're going to make some content around this and just try some stuff out. So take some big swings. There's so much content getting put out. If something flops, nobody cares. It just move on to the next one. And with that being said, if you guys do need help, sourcing these micro creators, that's exactly what we do at my company Creatorbuzz. We worked with a lot of really cool brands that I'm very proud of, and building out some programs. And if you guys also want to learn more about B2B influencer marketing, I build my entire business in public. I probably overshare. My accountant tells me to stop sharing my finances. But you can add me on LinkedIn here as a QR code, and it will not give you a malware virus here. Thank you guys.